All right, so in a previous video, we talked about the if statement and some additional operators you can use inside of the conditional statement, which again is just the whatever condition is inside of the parentheses here, to help you evaluate whether or not the body of the if statement should be executed or not. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to combine two or more conditionals into the same parameter um, of the if statement. So, in other words, you'll be able to evaluate more than just one conditional, and we'll see that in a second. So, I'm going to delete the old conditional we had from the previous video on line 11, and I'm going to keep everything else the same. So let's walk through what we're doing here. So on line 6, we have a new variable, or we declared a new variable called it is raining outside. It's of type Boolean and it is set to true. On line 7, we have a variable called it is cold outside, which is also of type Boolean, and we have it set equal to true. On line 9, we're going to always print a message saying before if statement to let us know that the process is currently at the is about to go into the if statement conditional. And then we also have another print statement after the if statement gets checked, just to let us know that the if statement has already been checked, and we are exiting the program at this point. So now let's take a look at the lines of interest here, the if block, the if statement and the body of the if statement. So what we want to do is we want to create a conditional inside of the if statement parameter that when it returns true, uh, prints out the message wear a raincoat. And we're going to use these two uh, variables to determine that. So let's see here. So we have two Boolean variables, and we want to use both of them to determine whether or not we want to print this message out. So I want to print out this message, wear a raincoat, only when both of these variables are true. So to do that in a single if statement, I simply specify the two variables. The first one is it is raining outside. The order doesn't matter. I'm just starting off with this variable. And when you combine two conditionals together, in this case, they're just two Boolean variables, you can use the double and symbol like this, just two consecutive ampersands, and also specify the second conditional. So it makes more sense if we just read this out loud. So reading line 11, we're asking Java, if it is raining outside and it is cold outside, print out this message. Okay, so you can probably glean from the conditional statement what the logic actually is. Essentially, if the it is raining outside variable holds a value of true, and the it is cold outside variable holds a value of true, this whole conditional returns true. Okay, so let's run this. And again, whenever the entirety of this conditional is true, then the body of the if statement will execute. And so since the whole conditional here is true in this case, because both of these variables are true, the whole thing is true. This entire conditional is true. It is raining outside and it is also cold outside. So that means that this conditional here, or this line of code gets printed out, and it does right here. So what if one of these was not true? What if it is raining outside is false? Or what if it is cold outside was false? Let's see what happens then. I'm going to change it is raining outside to false to indicate that it's not raining outside. Right, so in this case, we get two print statements. We have the before message and the after message, right? So the messages that print out before the if statement and the message that prints out after the if statement. So what happened here? So the and operator will only return true, will only evaluate the conditions used in to true if both of the variables on both sides of it are true. Okay, so in other words, it is raining outside has to be equal to true, and it is cold outside also has to be equal to true. In this case, it is raining outside is actually equal to false. So it is raining outside and it is cold outside is a false statement because it is raining outside is false. It's not true. So this entire conditional here returns false. Okay, so now let's see. We've covered the and operator to combine two different um, conditionals, and if they're both true, the whole conditional returns true. If one of them is false, either one of them, and just to drive that point home, I'll flip the values here. If either one of these two variables is false, the whole conditional returns false. Now, what if I wanted this conditional to return true if either one of them was true, if one or the other was true? In other words, I don't need both of them to be true. I just need one of them to be true. Well, in that case, we're looking at an or operation, and you denote or in your conditioner with these two vertical bars here. Um, and the vertical this symbol is actually the same key as your backslash. So just press shift and backslash and you'll get the vertical bar. You'll need two of them, consecutive and no space in between. Okay, like that. So in this case, we have an or statement in the conditional. And an or statement will return true when at least one of the conditions is true. So if it is raining outside or it is cold outside, return true and execute this code. Okay. If it is raining outside or it is cold outside, run the code inside of the if statement's body. So in this case, let's see if I run this, this should return true. So this whole conditional here should return true because one of the conditions is true. So if we look at this in detail, it is raining outside evaluates to true. And we're asking if it is raining outside or it is cold outside, run this line of code. So we actually do print out this value, this statement, this message, because the it is raining outside variable is set to true. Again, you don't need to have, in this case, both variables set to true because you're using an or operator in this conditional. And think of it as when you're speaking in English. If you say, if it is sunny outside or it's above 90 degrees, I'm going to go out and play golf, for example, right? You don't need both conditions to be true. You don't need it to be sunny outside and for it to be above 90 degrees for you to go out and play golf, right? Same thing if it's raining. if it's raining outside or it's cold outside, I'm not going to go out and play golf, right? So in that case, uh, whether it's raining or if it's cold, if one of those situations turns out to be true, you're not going to go out. Okay, so this is a little tricky. You might want to play around with this a little bit. This is what's called Boolean algebra, um, and it can get kind of tedious and complicated and confusing. But the more you mess around with it, the more you tinker with it and practice, the more it'll kind of make sense. But yeah, that's how you combine two different conditions, and you can have more. Actually, you don't need to only have two variables here. You can have as many as you need to, or as many as you'd like. You can actually combine booleans with some of the numeric uh, comparison operators that we looked in the previous video. So, for example, in this case, you can say if it is raining outside, or it is cold outside, or uh, 100 is less than 0. Yeah, 100 less than 0. Um, run this code. So in this case, if in this case we have three conditions. We have if it is raining outside, if it is cold outside, and if 100 is less than 0, run this line of code. Okay, and this will return. This will actually run this line 13 because at least one of these conditions is true. This one obviously is not because 100 is not less than 0. It is cold outside is false, so this is a false also, obviously, because the variable is false. This is the reason why this line of code executes, because again, we have three conditions, yes, but only one of them has to return true in an or condition for the whole thing to be true. So this returns, or this gets printed out because this is true. And let's change this to and. Let's say if it is raining outside and it is cold outside and 100 is less than 0. Let's run that. So while this runs, let's take a look at what we're actually asking for here. So we're saying if it is raining outside, if this variable is true, which it is, and it is cold outside, or in other words, if it is cold outside, the variable holds a value of true, which it doesn't, and 100 is less than 0. If all these three evaluate to true, run this line of code. In this case, it doesn't run that line of code because although it is raining outside is true, this variable is false, and this math equation is false. 100 is not less than 0. But let's modify this a little bit. Let's say this is true, and let's flip this around. If 0 is less than 100. So let's run that. So in this case, we're evaluating all these three conditions, and in order for this entire conditional to return true and then run this code, all three of these conditions have to be true. Okay. So in this case, it is raining outside is true. It is cold outside is true, and 0 is in fact less than 100. Mathematically, 0 is less than 100. So all these three conditions have returned true. So this line of code gets printed out.